All right. In a previous video, we covered the three things you cannot do when it comes to applying to be a police officer. Today, we're going to cover the three things you must do in order to become a police officer. Let's discuss. Listen, if you want to become a police officer and you want to know how to really apply these three things we're going to cover today, go ahead and jump over to our free gifts for you. One of them is your Getting Started workshop. It's going to walk you through the hiring process and show you how to apply these three things we're covering today. Also, if you need a little bit more information and something more tailored specifically to you, jump on one of our free coaching calls. The link's down below to sign up. Our gift to you, as I said before, and you can jump on with an actual live call with me or a member of my team, and we'll sit down and discuss exactly what pertains to you specifically. But anyway, the three things you must do when applying to become a police officer. Okay, number one, here we go. You must have your resume tailored to specifically apply to law enforcement positions. What's that mean? If you have a standard resume for, say, civilian work, and let's just say that law enforcement is separate than civilian. If you have a standard resume for civilian work, you're going to need to edit that and tailor it specifically towards law enforcement using terminologies like firearm safety and using terminology such as legal understanding. These are the type of things that you're really going to want to put in your resume to make it stand out. A lot of people think, oh, my resume is nothing. It's not going to do me any good because I'm eventually just going to have to go through a background questionnaire and a police questionnaire, and it's going to tell them everything about my life for the last 10 years. That's true. However, and this is a big however, when you sit down in front of your panel board, which is really what's going to determine whether or not you get a conditional offer, if that department or agency does a conditional offer, they're going to take your resume and they're going to look and say, hey, okay, this individual has a lot of experience. Let's see how he or she did on their written test or their physical test. And if you excelled in one of them or both of them, even better than that, oh, high candidate. Let's get them in here for a board interview. And maybe you had, I don't know, maybe you had 200 people apply. Let's say that. Let's say 200 people applied for 10 positions. Out of those 200 people, 150 passed their written and physical exam. Okay, you have 10 positions, you have 150 applicants. They're not going to interview 150 applicants. They're going to look at their top applicants on their written and physical tests, and then they're going to look at their top applicants on their resume and who has the most experience that applies to law enforcement or to the paramilitary structure of law enforcement. So if you have things on there where, hey, I'm a regional sales manager, I'm good at, managing people and subordinates, that's not going to sell. All right. They're not looking to hire a supervisor. Maybe you're applying to a supervisor job, but it's unlikely if this is your first law enforcement job that you're applying to. They're looking for a patrolman or a woman, or they're looking for a deputy to, an entry level position where they want to make sure that not only can you be a safe and respectable police officer and a team player, they're not looking for management right now. They're looking for someone that can go out and get the job done where that's not going to get the agency sued. So all that experience, it's good, and you can use it to articulate, well, hey, regional sales manager for XY company, have a lot of experience dealing with difficult people and problem solving. That's key elements when it comes to resume writing. Number one, you need to tailor your resume to make sure that it applies to law enforcement in general. Okay, tip number two. And tip number two is so easy to complete, but a lot of people drag their feet here because they don't put it on a high priority list. And they try to come back to it and say, hey, I'll just get it done when I need it. And tip number two is getting your documentation in order beforehand, before you even apply. And what do I mean by this? Go back, if you have a college degree, if you have military experience, if you have any type of transcripts, you're going to want to go back and get those official transcripts sent to you before you actually need them. A lot of times, if you have a transcript, even if you've completed a degree, they're not just going to take a picture of your diploma. They want to see your transcripts with your grades on them. So that can take a week or more, depending on the school that you apply to. A good way to look at this is if you're applying to a police department and they say in the beginning, hey, when you submit your police questionnaire, we need a copy of all this information as well, like your transcripts. Going to get your transcripts from a school, you may have to go online, fill out a transcript, official transcript request, and they could possibly send it over to that agency or department. That's one way to do it. However, a lot of times they only answer those requests once a month. And if you're already in the hiring process, by the time you need to get your transcript, say that you're supposed to turn in your transcripts when you turn in your PQA or PQS, your police questionnaire, right? When you turn in your police questionnaire, say you fill out your application, you get an invite to your written exam, and they say, bring your police questionnaire and all the required documents with it. All the required documents is a copy of your birth certificate, and that might need to be notarized, a copy of your birth certificate, your official transcripts, which means it can't be downloaded in just the envelope that you provide. It means it needs to be in a sealed envelope from the school, or it needs to be virtually sent over to them. But if they're telling you to bring it, they want a hard copy. So you go to request that, and next thing you know, you have your written exam in a week, and your school is saying, hey, yeah, you can request it. We'll get to it in a week and ship it out within 72 hours after we process it. Well, you just said that it's going to take 10 days, but you have your exam in a week. That's not going to work. You're going to go up there and they're going to put you in a pile, as even no matter how well you do on your exams, even if it's the written and physical exam, they're going to put you in a pile that said did not bring proper paperwork. And you may get lucky and they say, hey, get this to me within the next week. Or you may just get moved to the dismiss pile saying did not follow proper direction or fail to bring proper paperwork. And they may just dismiss you before you even take the written exam. Now, thankfully, right now, that's unlikely, just due to the fact that a lot of departments need to hire more officers. We're down a good percentage across the nation right now. But that doesn't mean you want to be one of those people that start off on a bad foot, or you want your hiring official waiting on you, because even if that's said, even if you move forward with the process, you're not going to be looked at as one of the highest qualified candidates at the time, due to the fact that you were improperly prepared after they've already explained it to you. So make sure that you read the hiring emails properly and bring all the documents you need. So that's one set of documents, is your school transcripts. Get them. What I do is I used to order, because I've been to a lot of schools when I traveled for the military. I order all my transcripts, and I have probably 5 copies of official transcripts just sealed in an envelope sitting in my safe right now. Now, I don't need them, but if I ever did apply to a new police department, I would have them ready to go. No one's waiting on me. They're going to look at me, hey, this candidate's squared away, ready to go. Anytime I ask them for anything, it's there. The next piece of information you want to order ahead of time is probably your driving record. If you've driven in multiple states or had multiple driving license, that's what I'm going for, that's the word. If you've had multiple driving license or driver's license, then you're going to need a copy of that state's driving record of you, and you're going to need to provide it. Now, thankfully, on this one, they'll accept, a printed out report from another police department if you get them to send it to you. But most of the time, you got to pay for those. And a lot of times it takes over a month to get that, especially if they don't have a secure email set up. That what they're going to do is they're going to mail it to you through snail mail, right? Through the U.S. Postal Service. And that's going to take forever, because they have to process the request. They have to go find it, and then they need to put it in the mail and get it to you. That can take a month or two. And if you're already in the hiring process, you're behind the curve. So make sure you get that done right now. Order your official transcripts. Do not open them. If you open them, they're no longer official. You can't turn them in. And order your driving record from every state that you've ever been in to make sure that you're ready to go. Now, there's some more things that you need to do to prepare and more documentation. You can watch all that in the Getting Hired or Getting Started as a Police Officer workshop that we have for you down below. But it would take the entire video and more to go over all that. So you can catch up on more of that in the workshop. Now, tip number three is going to circle back around to tip number one, your resume. But tip number three is increasing your experience level. If you have security experience and military experience, that's great. You want to put that on there and you want to articulate that properly. But if you do not, or even if you do, you're going to need more tailored experience, as we were talking about in the resume. So you need to take the time to build your experience before you submit your application. And I'm not saying that you have to, I'm just saying it's going to make you stand out for the hiring process and individuals. So taking courses like tactical medicine, even if they're just virtual courses, having certificates saying, hey, I've taken tactical medicine, or I've taken courses like dealing with difficult people, or I've even taken courses such as firearm safety and legal issues. These are the type of things that you're going to want to do to build the experience on your resume. One, it never hurts to just invest in yourself and to grow as an individual, because it's going to make you a better police officer or law enforcement official. But if you don't have that type of experience on your resume, you're going to really put a lot of effort on your written and physical exam to make yourself stand out, which there's nothing wrong with that. But they're going to look at and say, hey, this is a highly qualified candidate based on their performance. Great. Okay. Let's take a look at their resume. Okay. Hey, this individual is a sales manager at the local computer store. That doesn't really help them in the law enforcement perspective when it comes to experience. You have no background, at least you're not advocating any background of yourself when it comes to any type of law enforcement specific. That's why we said tailor your resume. If you don't have the information or the experience to tailor your resume, you need to go out there and gain it and grab it as much as possible. A good little tip for this is FEMA. FEMA, has every police officer has to do FEMA training, and FEMA training is free. Now, there's certain ones that are specific to law enforcement, and you can kind of search them up, or like I said, they're in the workshop down below. But take some FEMA training and go through some FEMA training. Now, that's just going to give you a little bit of experience. And honestly, it's going to save you from having to do it after you become a police officer, because most law enforcement have to redo FEMA training every year, or at least every couple of years. But at least you're gaining some experience and you can articulate that on your resume. So say you take ICS, which is pretty much the communication system or the incident command system for emergencies. If you say on your resume, or you take that training and you gain the experience, hey, I'm proficient in incident command systems and I understand emergency management and command structure, that looks great on a resume. And now you have some articulable experience that you can put down, and that they'll say like, oh, okay, hey, this person has this. And you write that in the experience, and then you can list the certification you have down below, where I completed ICS 700 or ICS 100 or whatever they're calling it these days. But that's something you want to do. You want to take the time to gain experience that is pertinent to law enforcement. And I'll let you in on a little tip. Once you become a law enforcement officer, being able to get training is difficult. It's difficult because a lot of times they're short staffed. They can't afford to send a officer away for, a week of training. So a lot of training winds up either happening during your 40-hour or 80-hour refresher, depending on the state and the department, or if it's training that you want to go seek yourself. And once again, this is a career. This isn't just a job. A career requires some self-investment. So you have to get out there and just invest your time to build yourself as a better police officer. And that helps you better serve your community. So remember, tip number one, get your resume in order. Make sure that your resume is squared away. You have everything that you've done all the way from your history to your work experience ready to go, and it is tailored specifically towards law enforcement, whether that is a 2-page resume for local and state or an 8 to 11-page resume for federal. Tip number 2, get your documentation now. You're going to need it. You don't want the hiring officials or the background investigator waiting on you to get that done. And tip number 3, build your experience. Go out, seek training, get the training you need to make you stand out as a better candidate and the best candidate as possible. If you have things like tactical medicine or something on your resume, one, you just learned how to deal with a tactical situation
and apply I shouldn't say training, but emergency medical services during that type of intense situation. That is such invaluable training that it hopefully you never have to use it, but there's a high likelihood that you probably will in the law enforcement career. And you can continually grow your training, and you should never stop your training and growing your experience, because while this department, you may get on with this department right now, maybe you want to transfer, and there's not always going to be a law enforcement shortage. So you need to be the most qualified candidate no matter where you want to go. Maybe you want to transfer to a federal organization or a state organization, or maybe just another local organization if you're already local. Make sure that you never stop your training. That's the one thing that's always yours, is the experience you gain. So even if it's just to get the job now, you can still utilize that throughout your entire life and career moving forward. So those links are down below. The workshop for getting started as a police officer is going to walk you through, give you a bunch more tips to discuss the things you need to better set yourself up as a police officer, and walk you through the entire hiring process. Or if you need more one-on-one attention and you have specific questions that pertain to you specifically, sign up for a coaching call with myself. Most likely it's going to be myself. It could possibly be a team member, but most likely with me. And we'll get you squared away and get you in with that department that you need as quick as possible. As always, stay safe, and I will see you next time.